In this video, we're going to be looking at both sides, listening to arguments from people who actually cares. We see a tendency of people not caring and being very ignorant on both sides, but my intention with this video is to have a nuanced look at the issue, keeping facts, science, and empathy on the table. While we have people on the radical left saying that kids should have the time to explore their gender and they're raising their kids gender neutral, we also have people on the far right who just don't care about trans people and just say, I'm against children transitioning without having a better solution. I'm gonna be using Dr. Deborah Saw's book, The End of Gender, as a part of my research. I also found a great article that I've linked below. Go click on it. It's a very, very long article, but that's on you. So, arguments on the pro-medically intervening side. The people who are for children transitioning are mainly for it because they're afraid of the consequences of not doing it. So let's take a look at what they think the possible consequences are. 1. Mental distress. 2. Self-harm. 3. Bad relationship with parents. 4. Not passing when they're older. And the common arguments I've heard from these people, there's no harm in taking hormonal blockers. It's conversion therapy. Medical professionals and trans clinics approve of this. Let's debunk them. 1. Mental distress. All the long-term studies done on gender dysphoric children say that between 60 and 90% of the children grow out of it. One study even showed that a kid with very severe gender dysphoria desisted. I would say it's essential to go through puberty to actually understand how they feel better. And the argument with mental distress, I think the mental distress could be so much worse if the kid is not actually trans and they medically transition and grow up and be like, what the fuck did I do? So I would rather that the kid is 100% sure that they're trans and have gender dysphoria and maybe go through that distress in the meantime, but then they can medically transition as an adult and be sure of that choice. 2. Self-harm. If I didn't transition young, I would kill myself is something that you hear from trans adults who transitioned when they were under the age of 18. It hits the ear wrong. I've also heard the disturbing, would you rather have a happy daughter or a dead son? I don't know about you, but when I hear those arguments, I hear, give us hormones or we will kill ourselves. That's emotional blackmail. Personally, I would not consider this a good argument that would help your case. I'm sorry to say this, but it's so easy to think like this when you are on the other side, your gender dysphoria is alleviated, because you would think like, oh my God, how did I survive this? Well, listen to this. We're strong human beings. I even sometimes think, looking at myself pre-T, pre-everything, maybe even as a girl, and be like, how did I survive this? I was in so much pain. We can handle a lot as human beings. So when studies show that the majority of trans kids don't end up trans, I think it's perfectly fine hesitating giving kids hormones. So the self-harm argument. According to the article below, suicide doesn't necessarily happen more often if kids do not have access to medical treatment. Number 3, bad relationship with parents. A social transition is pretty harmless for kids and teenagers. As long as they've been feeling this way for a longer time, why not do it? The trans community can be a second family for the ones who need that in their lives. Some of them are socially awkward and they can have this great network, a great community with people who will accept you and make you feel welcomed, but as long as you obey to the transgender community's agenda. I see how the trans community is demonizing parents, and yes, sometimes it is justified. It's like a cult mentality to be like, leave your family, we are your real family, and then there are this set of rules and all that. So I think it's sad that maybe kids are listening to people who don't know them. So the argument, bad relationship with parents, is sometimes the trans community's fault. Argument number 4, not passing when they're older. I'm confused. The same people who are for calling this person a valid trans person think that kids should not end up looking like this. That does not make any sense. I would much rather that the child grows up and not passing as much than the child stopping puberty, going through the opposite sex puberty, and regret it later in life. Because I can only imagine how painful it must be to detransition. And I hope you guys will understand what I'm about to say, but you need to not pass to actually know if you're dysphoric. So let's talk about this. Not passing equals being dysphoric. When I feel like I'm not passing, I feel dysphoric. But if you take that away from these kids, and there's already a very high chance of that kid not being trans, you're making it so much harder. So I'm sorry to say this because my intention is not to have kids go through pain, but sometimes it's necessary to go through temporary pain, to go through pain temporarily to know what's going on with them. It's hard to be dysphoric if you haven't gone through puberty yet. So to stop it before it happens doesn't make sense to me. Number 5, there's no harm in taking hormonal blockers. You hear this a lot, and I've never believed it. And after doing a lot of research, listen to this. The possible consequences of kids using hormonal blockers with biological females: brittle bones, anxiety, seizures, joint pains, and hair loss. If you've noticed, this is probably the same side effects that women in menopause get. Wonder why? More than 10,000 reports filed with the FDA reflect the experiences of women who've taken Lupron, hormonal blockers. The reports describe everything from brittle bones to faulty joints. This is a quote from a woman's story. My own story is that after taking Lupron, I now have bone loss, severe bone and joint pain, requiring heavy painkillers to get out of bed, chest pain, something, I'm sorry I can't say that, and horrible memory loss, hair loss, and weight gain. Prior to Lupron, I ran and boxed every day. I was healthy even though this caused significant pain. It has now been a year since my Lupron treatments, and my life is in medical shambles. With biological males, micropenis, painful and complicated bottom surgery with extra scars due to the micropenis, and destroying sexual function. Jazz Jennings is a perfect example of that. Overall, with both sexes, affects maturity, because a 13-year-old's brain is in a reconstructing phase and it wants to grow and grow, right? So you're messing with the natural maturity of the brain. Lower spine bone mass density. Lower spine bone mass density. This is a quote from Dr. William Malone from Dr. Deborah's book that I really like. It's not just the physical changes of puberty that are important. It's also the timing of those events. We have no idea if fertility will be preserved or if other physical functions of the body that dependent on properly timed puberty will catch up. And I think that makes perfect sense without being a doctor or anything. Being sterile. Biological children are dependent on gametes. Did I say that right? And they're destroyed with puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. And it's a known fact that we chemically castrate sex offenders with puberty blockers. Number 6, it's conversion therapy. Conversion therapy is for sexual orientation, not gender identity. I'm sorry, I think this argument is so stupid. And I thought gender was fluid. I thought gender was a choice, so wouldn't that go against the argument? It's not conversion therapy to try to make sure if these kids are genuine and if their pain is gender dysphoria and not something else. Making them go through that necessary pain is not evil. It's not to be anti-trans. Of course, people are anti-trans out there using maybe what I'm saying. I don't really care. It's not my fault what other people are saying, but like, it is not conversion therapy to make sure that they can live in their own body. I think it's conversion therapy if we're going to talk about it to make gay kids trans. Like, what's wrong with being gay? Number 7, medical professionals and trans clinics approve of this. Many like to ask me, how do you know better than doctors, specialists, therapists, and all of that? And that comes from how some people are just believing everything that a person with a white coat on is saying. And I don't think that should be the case. What they also forget is how, no matter what we're talking about, no matter what topic is popular, professionals disagree. You would find medical professionals saying kids should transition and you will find someone saying no.
Professor Whitehall has been pilloried by some in the transgender community for arguing that the vast majority of children diagnosed with gender dysphoria aren't actually transgender at all.
The good news is that in all the major articles, these children will revert to the natal sex through puberty. What we should do then is have confidence in the statistics and not mess the child up along the way.
My only problem with medical professionals is how they're thinking one thing about this, but they actively do another. Many medical professionals, therapists and all that, they're afraid to speak out against the trans discourse, and I think it's sad because they're giving kids hormones when they don't want to. And I have a hard time respecting that. I mean, they're afraid to lose their jobs and being called transphobic, but you're just giving them more power. Giving someone who's not dysphoric testosterone, estrogen, surgeries, and they know the person is not dysphoric, they should be ashamed of themselves. And you have to remember that this is a social and a political issue, so it's natural that you have different opinions. Alright, that was all the arguments that I've tried to debunk or disagree with evidence behind it. I really hope you liked it, but we need to address this. Overall, and what we should do instead, you cannot talk about how you're against children transitioning without having a better solution. My overall opinion is that you're gambling with the kid's life. Who will be the 10 to 40% of the real trans kids? And how are you gonna know? Every big life decision you're gonna make comes with consequences. So my suggestions of other things that you can do are not consequence free, but kids medically transition, not mistake free. All the studies and all the research that you can make on this topic is not 100% reliable because we need at least a decade more of research. You will see, and I promise you, you will see so many detransitioners in the next 5 years. And so this is just in 2020, I'm making a lot of research. I spend a lot of time on this, but who knows in the future, right? I think therapy is extremely important, and not only therapy, but good therapy. I don't want far left therapists to examine those children. I want a therapist who is doing their job, being critical, yet being compassionate. And if the kid is expressing some things, if the kid has been going through something, and the therapist is like, that could be what you think is gender dysphoria, but it's not, you have to act on it. And for the kids who are actually trans, I don't believe that it's only 10%. I think maybe it's 40, 30. It kills me that you are going through puberty as the opposite sex, or you're going through a puberty that you shouldn't go through. But just support these people. And I'm getting emotional because like there are people who are really in pain. But I think you can handle it. I truly think you can. Do not threaten your parents to say, I will kill myself if you don't give me what I want. That will ruin your family. It will ruin your relationships. That will ruin so much when people are just trying to care about you and help you the best they can. Hey, Editing Marcus here. So my point was, my ideas and suggestions for a better solution for these kids are something that would probably, hopefully, help the majority. What people are doing right now is only benefiting the minority of these kids and ignoring the majority. So yeah, that was kind of my point. So therapy, good therapy, critical therapy, incredible amount of support and patience, and try to do as much as you can as a parent, as a therapist, without medically intervening. That is my opinions. You can disagree, and I know a lot of people will. I just hope that you know that I mean well, and I'm not doing this to be anti-kids, anti-trans. I'm definitely not that. Be nice in the comments. Give me constructive criticism instead of saying I'm transphobic. Like, you can do it, but like, I'm gonna ignore you. You know that. Thank you so much for watching this video. My DMs are always open. And have a nice day out there. And love yourself. Peace out.